If you own a short-term rental in Phoenix right now, there's a good chance you're feeling something that doesn't get talked about openly very much. Not panic, not failure, not fatigue. Your calendar still books, but it feels inconsistent. Weekdays are softer than they used to be. You're touching pricing more than often. And even when the revenue is acceptable on paper, the effort feels heavier than it should. And what makes this even harder is the advice. One side tells you that you should sell now. The other side tells you to optimize harder, more tools, more tweaks, more attention. And you're stuck asking a quieter, more important question. Is this still the right model for this property? Or am I forcing something that no longer fits? Here's the part most investors don't want to hear, but need to. At this stage of the market, the issue is rarely the property. And it's rarely the Phoenix market itself. It's alignment. What worked extremely well a few years ago doesn't automatically work the same way now. And that doesn't mean that you bought wrong. It means the market has matured. Selling is not always the smart reaction people make it out to be, and doubling down on short-term rentals isn't always the answer either. Very often, the smartest move in 2026 is holding the asset and changing the strategy. By the end of this video, I want you to understand why midterm rentals in Phoenix are no longer a pivot idea, but are a normalized strategy, why holding often gives you more control than selling, and how to tell clearly what your next move should be from here. No hype, no urgency, just clarity. What's important to understand is that Phoenix didn't lose demand. Demand didn't disappear. It's reorganized. Over the last several years, we've seen sustained growth in hospital hiring, corporate project work, tech corridor expansion, insurance displacement stays, and families living between homes or waiting on new builds. Those people are still here. What changed is how they stay. Instead of booking 3 or 4 nights at a time, they're staying for 30, 60, even 90 days. They want furnished homes. They want predictable pricing. They want stability, and they want fewer transitions. That is midterm rental demand. And in Arizona, that demand is no longer emerging, it is established. What creates confusion for owners is that many properties are still being operated as short-term rentals in neighborhoods that no longer behave like short-term rental neighborhoods. So the owner feels friction. The calendar looks uneven, pricing feels sensitive, the work feels constant, and the loudest advice online says the solution is to sell. But selling does three things that don't get talked about enough. It forces a tax decision. It removes future optionality, and it locks in a choice based on a single chapter of the market. Holding with the wrong model creates stress. Holding with the right model creates control. Midterm rentals tend to bring fewer turnovers, longer stays, calmer operations, and far more predictable income. This isn't about chasing the highest possible gross revenue. It's about how the income feels to manage. Time matters, mental bandwidth matters, and flexibility matters. And a lot of investors struggle here because they treat short-term rentals versus midterm rentals like a hierarchy, as if midterm rentals are what you do when short-term rentals stop working. That mindset is expensive. Midterm rentals are not a downgrade. They are a strategic realignment. In many Phoenix area neighborhoods, midterm rentals now produce comparable or better net results with significantly less operational pressure. Sophisticated investors don't chase the loudest strategies. They choose the ones that give them the most control over their time, their asset, and their future decisions. Now, this doesn't mean every short-term rental should convert. If your property is in an event-driven area, thrives on weekend demand, performs exceptionally well during peak season, and has strong group appeal or entertainment-focused amenities, short-term rental may still be the right model. This isn't an anti-short-term rental. It's profitability through alignment. Where I consistently see owners struggle is when they force nightly rentals in quiet residential, demand-stable areas that naturally support longer stays. Those properties aren't broken. They're just being asked to perform in the wrong role. Here's the framework I want you to think in as we move forward. When you hold a property and realign the strategy, you gain income control through predictability instead of volatility. You gain time control through fewer turnovers and fewer decisions. And you gain exit control because you're not making emotional choices under pressure. Selling removes options. Holding with the wrong model creates anxiety. Holding with the right model creates breathing room. And breathing room is where smart long term decisions come from. At this point in the Phoenix market, the winners aren't chasing hype. They're choosing stability over chaos, function over flash, and flexibility over rigidity. Midterm rentals fit that reality very well, not because they're trendy, but because they match how people are actually living and working now. So if your short term rental feels heavier than it used to, if you've caught yourself questioning whether you should sell or hold, or if you're simply tired of revenue swings and constant adjustment, it doesn't mean you failed. It likely means your property is asking for a different strategy. And the smartest move may not be selling. It may be holding with better alignment. If this is something you're actively thinking about and you want a clear, unemotional perspective on your specific situation, there's a form below this video. That form helps me understand what's happening with your property, what you're navigating, and what decisions you're weighing. From there, if it makes sense, you'll have the option to book a discovery call with me. No pressure, no rush, just clarity, context, and the right next step for your property.